is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back to talk about another UDFA signing for the Detroit Lions. And today we have a special video. Today we are talking about a Division II college football player that graduated 2 years ago. So let's get it started.
Way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, and we're going to stand up, and then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up, and then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
Yeah! He's the GOAT! There's nobody! Welcome everybody to a video. I'm glad you guys are here. Yeah, we got a pretty special UDFA video to talk about today, and this is another offensive lineman. But man, I've said it before, I love doing the offensive lineman videos. They're fun to slow it down, watch them in slow motion, watch them go to work, watch the hand placement, watch them maul players. I mean, it is fun. And today, I think this is a pretty special one because this is a Division II player. It's a very tough path to the NFL to get recognized by NFL teams. We did see a player that did not play Division I football on the offensive line get drafted this season. We saw Quinn. He was drafted by the Denver Broncos in the 3rd round, and the Lions have signed their own non-Division I football player to the offensive line, Evan Heim. I'm hoping I'm saying his name right. I'm not sure. I'm going to go with Evan Heim, but we'll just stick with Evan for most because I know Evan's right. Hopefully, it's not even, right? Yeah, it's Evan. Evan's right. But Heim, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it is. This is an offensive lineman, specifically a tackle out of Minnesota State. Now, he's used to a lot of winning. At Minnesota State, he won a ton of games. His first year there, they went 8-3. But since that time, because he's a 4-year player, since that time, they went 40-3. 40-3, that's not made up. 40-3 was the record after his first season. So, obviously, a lot of winning with Minnesota State. And he's played a ton of games. He's played 11 games at the right tackle position and over 40 games at the left tackle spot. But it does seem like guard is the move for him at the next level, and it will probably be his position early on for the Detroit Lions if he makes the team. Now, the unfortunate thing here with Evan Heim is that he's a Green Bay Packers fan. I'm sure he isn't anymore, but he said that he was a Green Bay Packers fan because he grew up in Wisconsin. He was close to Lambeau Field, and I'm like, oh, that's disgusting. Disgusting! But at the same time, maybe that gives him a little edge. Like, I was a Packers fan, but the Lions took a chance on me. They gave me this opportunity. Now I got to go out there and just prove them all wrong. You know, I got to go out there and dominate those guys. But it's a really cool story. I mean, from Division II to getting unsigned by anybody as a UDFA in his first year. I mean, 28 out of 32 teams contacted him. But for him, I mean, pro day's huge, right? And because of COVID, there was no pro days then. So it wasn't just combine. There was no pro day. There was no opportunities for him to really push himself out there, show like, hey, I'm super fast or something like that to get his name recognized. And because that he was not picked up by anybody. So now a year later, the Detroit Lions picked him up. And this is like one of those under the radar signings the Lions made. But I think it's really cool that the Lions pick up on these guys. Like, you never hear about these guys. I mean, he was not picked up last season by anybody. And all of a sudden the Lions do it. I mean, it's not even like he came out of the draft this year. So these are like the little under the radar signings that the Lions make. I just say, how did you find this guy? Like, how did you find this dude? It's definitely going to be a leap for him to the NFL level. When he was asked about that transition, this was a couple of years ago, of course, he said that he thinks he'll be a 6th or 7th offensive lineman. That'll be a depth player that can help out a team. And then his second year, he'll be competing for a starting role. So, you know, we'll see how that goes for him. Obviously rooting for him. But let's get into this film a little bit here. So obviously a lot of winning. He's had a lot of experience on the field. He's mainly been the left tackle for Minnesota State, which is usually where they put the best offensive line. Usually, if he has the size, won a lot of games. This was a very run-heavy team. They didn't put up a lot of passing numbers, but they were one of the most dominant rushing teams in college football, which is a little bit concerning in a right because you're like, ooh, how is he in pass protection? But then at the same time, you're like, dang, he could dominate in the run game because he was a big staple of that run game. So let's start with run blocking first. And of course, you know, the competition, I could keep saying it over and over, but let's just say it once and be done with it. The competition is a very big factor. He's not playing against the best comp. Most of the guys, I mean, pretty much every guy he's going against, I have no idea who they are. So competition is a very big question. It's a very big leap from Division II to the NFL level. We know that. The Lions will get to see him this offseason, see how he does. It's a very big transition. But what I did see for him against the competition that he did play, because that's all I can tell you about, he looked pretty darn good, and specifically as a run blocker. Like I said, run-heavy team, and he was very good run blocking. There's not a lot of concerns here. There's like no red flags for me as a run blocker. There's just a lot of things to like. Very dominant run blocking team that you can see schematically, you can see the fit right away. Very heavy spread offense. They don't go under center very often. I actually heard one of the announcers say that they go under center maybe 5-10% of the snaps. But other than that, it's out of the spread. So a lot of shotgun, a lot of pistol, which is what Jared Goff said we're going to see with the Lions offense this season. It's going to kind of take you back to Jared Goff's Cal days, but it could fit a guy like DeAndre Swift, which is what he did at Georgia, and also what Evan Heim did with Minnesota State. So schematically, you can see the fit there. He also said personally that he believes he's a better zone blocking run scheme fit. Going to see more of that from the Detroit Lions this year. He said I can do both, but I think I'm better suited for zone blocking. So I think schematically, there's definitely a fit there. And I would say my favorite part about him as a run blocker, and I like a lot of things, is this second level blocking. We brought this up with a lot of guys, but it's the ability to get to the second level. And you have to be athletic, you have to be light on your feet, you have to be very disciplined to be able to block into the second level and have success, and he can do that. And specifically from the tackle position is what makes it so impressive. And Minnesota State would find ways to allow him to get to the second level. One way they did this is that they would put 2 tight ends on his side. They put 2 tight ends on his side because he's playing left tackle, and they'd allowed him to get upfield to run block. RPOs, things like that, he could get upfield, and those guys could protect and kind of anchor that side of the offensive line. So they loved him going upfield. He was a fantastic second level blocker. I love him at the second level. He's got the good athleticism. Another thing that really works in his favor is his length. He's got good length. He's got over 33-inch arms. Now, I don't expect him to play the tackle at the next level for the Lions. At least that wouldn't be right away. Maybe down the road, they try to develop him into that role, or he could do it in a very big pinch. But if he makes a team, I see him as a guard pushing inside. So with his length, it's very beneficial at the second level, being able to connect with guys. And it's something that he brought up as an advantage as a zone blocker. So his length really helps him. But second level, he really thrives at that. He can get to the next level. He's always looking ahead. He can pick up linebackers. He has good athleticism. And then the length really helps him. The most fun parts to watch of an offensive lineman, and that's the finishing ability. The guy's an absolute finisher, man. He has that Mauler mentality as a blocker. He wants to pancake you. He wants to put you in the ground. And that's what he brings play after play after play. He's mean. He's nasty. He's got the mindset of a really good offensive lineman. The dude is a consistent finisher. 2 things that goes for him. He consistently has good hand placement. It's under the shoulders. He gets his hand low. He gets a fantastic grip, and it allows him to just kind of push guys into the ground. Placement is everything. Hand placement is so much for a trenches player. But secondly, which Hank Freely touched on a ton, is pad level. And this is another spot that he really does well and it excels, specifically as a run blocker. He gets low very quickly. He can bend at the waist as a run blocker, and then he gets really good pad level and pairs that with good hand placement. The guy can finish consistently. And even when it's not good hand placement, even when it's off, and occasionally it is, it just happens, the guy still wants to throw you in the ground. So he's got the finisher mindset. He's going to play whistle to whistle. Even if that doesn't mean finishing as much as it means just playing through the play, the guy is always looking for the second player to block, the next player to block, specifically as a run blocker. So going upfield, he has a lot of talent. That's where he's at his best. And he also brings a nice quick first step, especially as a run blocker. That quick first step is very crucial as a zone blocker, stepping in front of the defensive lineman, stepping in front of a linebacker, being able to get himself in position early. Consistently, he is the first player off the ball. Gives me some Taylor Decker vibes there. I mean, the good offensive tackles do that. He's consistently the first guy off the ball. There's not a lot of things that I don't like, honestly, as a run blocker. Obviously, the competition, as we brought up, but, there's not a lot of things I don't like. Occasionally, I would say his balance is a little questionable. It more shows up as a pass protector, but balance can be a little off, and that can happen, specifically when you're trying to block to the second level. Your balance can be thrown off because you're trying to keep up with some of those smaller guys, some of those linebackers, lose the first initial battle. They leave a little bit too early and try to work ahead. And I would say he can also bulk up a little bit, especially if he's moving to that guard spot. At 6'4", 305, it's not a bad size, but he could add 5-10 more pounds of muscle if he wanted to. Have pretty heavy hands. He can deliver some pop, but I could see him, add a little bit more strength, specifically in that lower body, to help him a little bit with his balance, but also continue to push the line of scrimmage. He could move the line of scrimmage at that level, but I don't know how well he'll do that at the next level for guys that he's going to be facing at the NFL level. So I think adding strength, specifically moving to the guard spot, if he does, which many people believe that he will, I think that's something that could really benefit him. There's not a lot of red flags here, aside from the competition, but as a run blocker, he is really good, and there's an obvious scheme fit. Then as a pass protector, this is where I don't love him as much. I don't dislike him here, but I don't love him as much. I really like him as a run blocker. However, I think guard is a really good slide for him at the next level, at least early in his career. There is potential that he could slide to tackle in certain situations. He has the size for it. He's got good enough arm length that he could play the tackle spot. And obviously he has tons of experience, as that's all that he did with Minnesota State. Pass protector, I think that he's going to benefit a lot from moving inside, just with some of the concerns that I see in his game. I think it's going to help him a ton. And you'll also see, yes, they slide 2 tight ends to his side so that he can block upfield, but he's much better playing upfield than he is playing back in his stance. And a lot of times they do like to slide tight ends his direction. He's not the furthest guy on the edge, because I don't think he's the best on the edge as a pass protector working backwards, but he does bring solid length, as I mentioned, and especially moving to the guard spot, it's going to be really good length for him as a pass protector. He does have solid awareness as well. I mean, I'm not going to say he's on top of everything, but he does help, you know, when he has the opportunity, when no one's in front of him, and he does have pretty good awareness. His head is usually on a swivel. It's just the occasional lapses where sometimes he'll miss the guy and he won't really see them, or bad anticipation, but for the most part, he's got pretty good awareness as a pass protector. Hand placement and pad level, those two things are so crucial. Give him a big advantage right away in training camp. You know, as soon as he steps in, that pad level and hand placement is really going to help him, and those are things that you can build off. If you have that down, you can build off. If you have inconsistent pad level, inconsistent hand placement, you're going to have issues, but to a lesser degree, it does translate in pass protection. Occasionally it misses. Hand placement can miss a little bit. He can get too far outside, and his pad level, sometimes he can get a little bit too tall. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but for the most part, it does translate as a pass protector as well, and it really helps him. And he battles with pass rushers. He's going to fight. He's going to try to stay in front of you. Good anchor with this size. You watch him back in college, he's usually not going to get bull rushed back to the quarterback. There are other issues, which we'll get into in a second, but in terms of just size, strength, length, he could anchor at his size at that level. I don't know at the next level, but at Division II, he could. However, here comes the concerns as a pass protector. His hands can tend to get late. He'll kind of like stick out his hands and then put him back in and retract them before someone gets to him. Just kind of shoot his hands out and put him back if there's no one in front of him. And it's weird because sometimes he'll do that and then someone will come in front of him and then he'll be late to get his hands out. And obviously if you get your hands out really late, you could be in a really bad spot, lose a lot of the leverage battle. So getting hands out late is definitely something that I saw as an issue. But here's the biggest issue to me as the pass protector. And this made him very susceptible to push-pull moves, to really finishing him as a defensive lineman. We've looked at defensive linemen can have finish moves. And for him, the big problem is here is he gets his shoulder way too far over his feet too many times. And it's kind of like that Mauler mentality. It works as a run blocker. He's working ahead. He's always pushing ahead. But as a pass blocker, balance is way thrown off. And at that point, once your balance and your leverage is thrown off, it doesn't matter how strong you are. It makes him very susceptible to push and then pull. And then he can lose a ton of balance and he can be pushed out of the way and thrown out of the way very easily. So then a lot of that strength that he has is kind of just thrown out the window. So for him, it's very important that he keeps himself very balanced. He keeps a good foundation, and it's bad. It throws everything else as a pass protector. I don't love his bend either against edge rushers, specifically at the next level. I think it's going to show up even more. Like I said, his pad level, his hand placement is usually pretty good. He finds himself inside, at least one arm inside the numbers, which can really help dictate. He has solid length, and at the same time, he gets low. And because he's able to get low and bend at the waist, it can really help him. The issue is here is I don't think he has great bend to the outside. Great quickness around some of the speed rushers could give him an issue. But sliding him to the inside, that's not going to be as much of a problem, because what he does well, getting low, hand placement, being able to anchor, will show up more at the guard spot. It'll help him because you won't see some of those issues come up, but he's definitely going to have to clean up some things, even from the guard spot, even from the interior offensive line spot. But specifically, if you want to move to the outside, I think there's just a lot of things that could be cleaned up, a lot of things that could be tweaked and cleaned up in his game to be a more consistent pass protection guy. But he's had a ton of reps. You know, he's had a lot of experience. The issue is, it's a very run-heavy offense. Of course, like I said, he doesn't play against the top pass rusher, so I don't know how he's going to fare against some of the best competition, but you can see that he's a battler. He gets good hand placement. He's going to compete. He's going to battle throughout the whistle. The issue is there's just a lot of little things in his game that throws him off, and they're probably going to be more exploited at the next level. But pushing him into guard early could help him. But with that, I would like to see him bulk up, get a little bit stronger, specifically in the lower body, to help him at the next level. But I do think he's very suited for the guard spot. I love the schematic fit here. There's things that could be technically cleaned up, but I'm really hoping that he does make the roster in some facets. And I think he's one of those guys that over time, you know, could surprise you, because he was really good against competition. He's a great run blocker early, but you just wonder about how he's going to translate, obviously, against the talent at the NFL level compared to the Division II level. I mean, if he did exactly what he did at Division II at the NFL level, he'd be an NFL player, especially at the guard spot. But NFL is much different, and things are going to show up. But he has the size, he's got the length, he's got the competitive drive, and he also has that Mauler mentality to really help him. And I think schematically, he's a great fit with athleticism to help fit that kind of scheme. To see what Evan Heim can do. He's been a part of a lot of winning, and hopefully that mindset is kind of rubbed off on the Lions, like Jared Goff, and we start to win some games. Hopefully, he's just not okay with losing, and he's like, no, we're going to win, guys. Hopefully. Because of his measurables, because of his athleticism, because of his experience playing the tackle spot, I could see potential versatility down the road as like a Terrell Crosby type replacement. A depth guy that can play both guard and tackle. And that versatility is very, very nice at the NFL level. I don't know about starter because I think we have a lot of positions locked up, but I think down the road, the goal for him would be a nice guy that can play the depth position for the Lions and play a lot of different spots when injuries do come up, and potentially take that Terrell Crosby type of backup role, assuming Terrell Crosby's back this season, because this is the last year of his deal. So I think that's the goal for Evan Heim a couple years down the road. But Evan Heim is a Detroit Lion. I'm rooting for him. I think this is a really cool story, and it'd be awesome to see him make the roster when last year no one picked him up. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you, Brad, for watching, and I'm out.